Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome to the Guilty as Charged podcast. My name is Steven, and I am the host. We will not be talking about Utah football today. The season is so bad that I am doing a podcast for the Chargers during a Utah game that would have never happened the last few seasons. So we will not be addressing my other favorite team. Anyways, getting that out of the way early. Joining me as always this morning is my guy, Tyler. Tyler, what's up, man? How are you doing today?
Doing very well. I have no, significant interest in college football. I had no expectations for any season that USC has. So whatever. I don't know when they're playing or who they're playing or what's going on, what their record is. So I'm, ignorance is bliss over here. I do feel bad for my students though, because they learn a valuable lesson about the fact that things are kind of rigged and people just do things for money. Because everyone thought that Tyson was going to win. I felt so bad looking at all of them and saying, guys, it's going to go to the very end. Paul's going to win. And everyone's like, no, Tyson's going to knock him out. I'm like, guys, it's just for money. And not only did they get that valuable lesson, they all got to see Mike Tyson's ass on live television. So just a 1-2 punch, if you will.
Yeah, you will not be seeing anyone's ass today. I can guarantee you that.
Well, it depends on your super chats, guys. Like, hold on. Speak for yourself, Steven.
Okay. I did not watch. You could not pay me to watch an event like that. To me, it's the most ridiculous thing that, Mike 60-year-old Mike Tyson versus a YouTuber. Like, I have zero interest in watching that. But to each their own. I guess the thing that obviously impacts football is that I heard everybody had issues streaming that game, and Netflix has a Christmas Day game, and it's a Chiefs game. So
no one watches them.
No one watches the Chiefs. I can't imagine that the streaming service is going to be that much cleaned up by Christmas Day, which is like 5 weeks away at this point in time. So hopefully this is the only time Netflix gets an NFL game, because my wife and I watch Love is Blind, and they try and do the Love is Blind reunions live, and they always mess up. They messed up with the broadcast last night. So yeah, them doing a football game, an NFL Christmas Day game is something else to me. I can't imagine that is going to go very well.
And here we were making fun of ESPN Plus just a few weeks ago. But now, granted, they didn't have the same traffic as a Chiefs game on Christmas, but It was fine. Broadcast, meh.
Yeah, that was the lowest rated Monday Night Football game technically in like 30 years. To be fair, they put it up against like a great game, and it was on ESPN Plus. So I don't really know what the NFL was expecting that day. Romeo says his Netflix was so bad it was like watching a Staley defense on third down. Yikes.
That's
Yikes.
bad. That's bad.
Yeah. Okay, so we are here obviously to do some questions. We'll get to those, probably for the bulk of the show today. Obviously, we do have to start with kind of our wrap up for the preview. We didn't really touch on any of the injury news from this week because, we like to get full game statuses and things like that. And then we will talk about some of our PrizePicks selections of the week. Today's show is brought to you by, of course, PrizePicks, our great friends in the daily fantasy industry. And so we'll start with the biggest news, the biggest two news items, I should say, which are the two gentlemen in the title here, and one of them is in the thumbnail. If you're a little bit confused by the thumbnail today, Kristian Fulton and Ja'Marr Chase will be matching up today as Kristian Fulton makes his return to the field for the Chargers at full strength, he says. He is not on the injury report, which is great news. And he will be matched up with his childhood friend, high school teammate, college teammate, Ja'Marr Chase. I would expect to see that matchup quite a bit. So huge news for the Chargers as Kristian Fulton gets back into the fold. The Chargers have not really been fully healthy or anything close to fully healthy in the secondary in quite a few weeks. So Kristian Fulton getting back as the Chargers make this playoff push is obviously fantastic news for the defense.
Oh, absolutely. He was playing fantastic football. There's a graph that went up where basically if you were a Chargers corner, you were in the top right of the graph and doing very well in coverage and preventing separation and all that. But even among like Cam Hart and Tarbib still being there, Fulton was even separating his own self because he was that good to start the season. And I'm so excited to see him back. He was playing great football. We've really, appreciated how Cam Hart and Tarbib still have been playing. But there's an aspect where they're also like good for rookies. They've been good, but they've also been like really good for rookies.
Relative, yeah.
Yeah. Kristian Fulton just was flat out great. great tackling as well, great being physical. Like everything he brought was perfect for this defense. So I'm excited to see him out there. It's a great week to return.
Yeah, and again, very difficult matchup. I think the Chargers game plan should not change. I expect a lot of cloud coverage, a lot of eyes on Jamar Chase as they prepare for this. But there's something to be said about Kristian Fulton coming into this game. He's been injured, and obviously now he gets to come back, and this is like legit bragging rights between him and Jamar Chase. I'm sure obviously Jamar Chase is objectively a much better NFL player than Kristian Fulton has been, but when you're a cornerback and you can have just kind of a mental edge against your old, high school friend, college friend, and you want to be able to use this game against him in the future, like when you go to cookouts and stuff when you're all 45 and stuff like that. Kristian Fulton's going to want to say, "Hey man, remember that time on Sunday Night Football I locked your ass up?" Like, yeah. So this is it's a huge game for Kristian Fulton, huge game for the secondary. Like Tyler mentioned, he's just been nails for this team when he's been out on the field, and he's had some great moments. It would be a fantastic opportunity for him to come in and get a pass breakup, maybe get an interception, something like that can just really spark this team. But I've said this before. To me, I think the best cornerback trio that the Chargers have is Fulton outside alongside Cam Hart on the outside, and then Tariq still being able to play the slot. So the Chargers have quite a few options in the slot now, which is great to see. They've reached flexibility and adjustments in that position. Now they have the full kind of arsenal at the slot if they want to put Derwin down there, if they want to put Still down there, if they want to put Jasir Taylor down there. They can kind of mix and match and give this Bengals offense a few different looks because Kristian Fulton is now back out there and healthy.
Yeah, which is fantastic for him. And I wasn't sure where I was leaning. So once the games that Fulton played started, we're like, yeah, he should be brought back next year, especially because at the time we didn't know anything about Cam Hart, and Zont was, kind of hit or miss. Not sure where I stand because of all the injuries that he's had, and it being an injury that's a repeat thing for him through his career.
Right.
If you walk back onto primetime and shut down Jamar Chase, okay, we can have this conversation again.
Yeah, I mean, back-to-back games against Jamar Chase. Next week, he probably won't see a ton of Zay Flowers. Zay's obviously more of a slot player, but
right,
the Ravens obviously have a few receivers out there. Rashad Bateman, that's a pretty good receiver, and obviously the Ravens passing attack is doing historically great things right now. So, a couple of good games on prime time. You play good against the Chiefs. You play a crucial role down the stretch of getting this team to the playoffs. That can help Kristian Fulton quite a lot. I don't think it'll help him to the stance of like getting paid like a top tier cornerback market, but maybe this is a guy who you can give kind of like a 3-year, $30 million deal kind of contract. Kind of the Michael Davis deal bumped up a little bit for inflation and market inflation and stuff like that. But I do think he is trending towards being an option for them to bring back, and we can have that conversation about a bunch of these guys, right? Poona Ford, I think, is definitely somebody who should be brought back. But Fulton has played outstanding. It's just the hamstring injury, which was an issue in Tennessee, like Tyler mentioned. It's the recurring hamstring injury, I think, will hurt his contract, potential next year as well.
Yeah. Question from Steven here. Will Fulton's return impact the safety rotation with all the 3 safeties playing really well? I don't imagine a ton.
I don't think so. So Daniel Popper had a great article about this with the safety trio. The Chargers essentially view them having 3 starting safeties with Elijah Molden, Alohi Gilman, and obviously Derwin James. Jim Harbaugh came out pretty vehemently and said that their best nickel combination they think is having Derwin James in the slot. And their best dime combination is having Derwin James as a dime linebacker. So they want Derwin around the football, around the line of scrimmage more often. And I think we're seeing that result in some of his best games. Now, this week, it's just a real sense of curiosity because, you're going to want to have guys deep in order to kind of, protect your cornerbacks against Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. And early on in the season, that was what Derwin was most doing. He was staying back in his too high shell. People were calling him washed because he wasn't like making plays on the football. Well, he was always back in the deep part of the field protecting his corners. So I'm curious if we get back to that kind of schematic rotation. But I think this team views Elijah Molden as a starter. I don't think they view Jasir Taylor and Tariq Still the same way in terms of being a slot player. So I think getting him on the field takes precedence over the other two cornerbacks. And again, they can do that in a variety of different ways. It doesn't have to be an either or conversation. I think Junior Colson's injury plays a factor here because you're not really going to want to play as many linebackers, without him out there. So all of this kind of is a way to get Derwin more closer towards the line of scrimmage and get Elijah Molden on the field too.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But I do think Fulton and Hart are probably they're your two outs, I guess, especially this week where you have two bigger physical
100%.
receivers. Like you're not going to want to have, Tariq still can be physical, but I mean, he's 5'10" and Cam Hart is 6'3", so it's just a different kind of beast.
Yeah.
The next one here is obviously Khalil Mack. Extremely important matchup this week. It sounds like Orlando Brown is going to give it a shot to play. Zach Taylor said that basically players who are on the field during their walkthroughs have a pretty good chance of playing, even if they aren't necessarily practicing, which is good for the Bengals because their backup tackle was Cody Ford, who's been mostly a guard in the NFL, and it did not go very well against the Ravens. So it sounds like Orlando Brown's kind of a game time decision. It sounds like Khalil is also a game time decision. He said that he's getting better, but he is dealing with some discomfort, obviously. But playing through two groin injuries at the same time is something I can't even imagine. Tremendously difficult for a pass rusher to kind of generate any kind of power, speed off the line when your flexibility is in real question. So if he does play, I can't imagine it'll be a ton of snaps, but it sounds like he really, really would like to play this week, given, the nature of the game. And he told Rodney Harrison flat out, like, I'm going to do my best to get out there on the field. And so if he does, man, it's just kind of a testament to who he is right now.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even imagine. The fact that he was out there even the previous week was a surprise. But okay, like you get out there, see what you can do. The fact that he maybe re-aggravated it and still wants to get out there this week. But I get it. That is kind of the mentality. I mean, they have pushed there every day, as the mantra of this team. And Justin Herbert has certainly, doesn't matter, I'm out there. Joe Alt, high ankle sprain. He misses one game, gets back out there. I mean, these guys are trying to get out there. So I get it. Like Mac, and being the leader that he is, like if everyone else is doing it, I'm sure as shit you're going to be out there and doing it. We'll see how much he plays. There was an interesting graphic this morning or I think it was yesterday, from Seth Walder for ESPN and double team rates. And both Mac and Thule, I don't usually see this, both Mac and Thule were like among like the top 10 most double teamed edge rushers in the league this season. I feel like sometimes it's, Joey and then like the other guy who isn't as double teamed, or Mac and the other guy. I rarely see both. That'll be, I'm guessing this week, it'll be Bosa that's more double teamed along with Thule. Do you think that's more of a product of the scheme or just the fact that the Chargers don't have an interior pass rusher who's really like that guy?
I think it's the latter. I mean, you're not dedicating really any resources to the Chargers interior, and traditionally, when you have 6 men in to protect, that equates to a chip or a double team on one edge rusher and then a double team on an interior rusher, so you can kind of keep the interior pocket clean. And maybe that starts to change as Puna continues to put out their reps like from last week and against the Saints. If he can give them, 1 or 2 reps like that a game, maybe that changes things a little bit. But I think it's a product of the lack of interior guys. The Chargers not really blitzing a whole lot either, I think, is a part of that. But Thule weirdly had a pretty high double team rate last year, if I remember correctly. I feel like he was getting double teamed at a pretty high rate alongside Khalil. So I think there's a lot of factors there, but Khalil getting double teamed that much, unfortunately, not really a surprise.
Yeah, definitely not with Khalil, but unfortunate to see both.
Yeah. The last thing with Khalil, he was talking about this, doing everything to play looks different for a lot of players, right? When you're dealing with an injury. He said that he is getting treatment basically like 12 hours a day. He didn't put a number on it, but he gets treatment before practice, after a workout, and then he's flying outside people into LA to go to his house to give him treatment as he wakes up and as he goes to sleep. Like, he's getting treatment all day long on this groin injury, on the groin injuries, I should say, in order to play. So I think it's a really interesting debate for him, right? Because, you know, if he had taken last week off, that probably would have done a lot for him in order to play this week. So, you know, as Frank puts in the chat, lots of money signs. He is literally spending probably a small fortune to get out there on the field for this team. So, you know, the effort to get out there and be healthy for this team. Derwin James said in that interview with Ronnie Harrison that Khalil individually has changed the culture of the defense. And last year it didn't result in obviously a great defensive performance, but his ability to put everything out there and everything into playing consistently, it changes how the rest of the players around him are kind of approaching the season. And Derwin talked about that at a pretty good length with Ronnie Harrison. So huge shout out to Khalil, man. He's doing literally everything to get out there.
Yeah, he's from day one, we've just appreciated what he's done as a leader on and off the field, gathering the team together, working with the third and fourth team because they needed bodies. So he's out there doing extra reps in practice. Like, he's just phenomenal. I hope we get more years from him so I can officially say he's one of my favorite Chargers of all time. He probably is anyway, but it's only been 2.5 seasons. But if we get like 5-6 seasons out of him, yeah, like I'm putting a jersey back there, man.
Yeah, there's no reason that he shouldn't be back next year. And the way that he talks about Harbaugh, the way that he talks about Ben Herbert, everybody, as well as obviously his play on the field, there's no reason why he shouldn't be back next year and going forward with his team. There's been no drop off. Like, the film is still great.
Yeah,
the numbers are still great. You know, he's not a like defensive player of the year edge rusher, but he still is very much in that kind of tier 2 of edge rushers for me. And then you obviously mentioned the double team rate. So he's playing fantastic. So the Chargers are not going to have a healthy Khalil Mack. They might have a healthy Joey Bosa back, or at least a healthier version of Joey Bosa back. He said yesterday was his first full practice since week 1. It was the first time he is not on the injury report since week 1. You know, he's been on a pretty hefty snap count the last couple of weeks. He still is going to be a snap count this week. But again, the Chargers don't need him to play 65 snaps right now with the way that Bud and Thule can defend the run. Let them do the dirty work and bring in Joey on third downs and things like that. And he says that he's expecting 30 plus snaps this week, which it sucks that, again, we do not have a healthy edge rusher room. But at least if Khalil can't be going, at least we do have Joey out there for 30 plus snaps potentially, emphasis on potentially. So it's great to see, you know, if Joey can stay healthy the rest of the year, it's a huge difference making opportunity for this team.
Yeah, I mean, thank goodness. Great timing, bad timing, all the same. We had this team, you know, in week 1 against the Raiders. I don't know what it was between Joey and Khalil, but it was probably like 3 sacks, 10 pressures, forced fumbles. I mean, it was just glorious, right? And we got that for 1 game and maybe 3 Panther snaps. So unfortunate that we can't get Khalil back out there in full, but Joey being out there is great. I've seen the last couple of weeks a couple of good plays from Joey in the 15 that he's played. And he said too, like, the Chargers were up big. You know, I didn't need to go out there and risk my body while we're up 27-10 or whatever it was. So I think he had more to give and more to play. They just didn't need him out there. So I think this week, yeah, I do believe he'll play more snaps. I wouldn't be surprised if he played a lot of snaps. But happy to have him out there because, again, as good as Khalil Mack is, Joey Bosa can be even better. And hopefully he can do that on Sunday.
Yeah, and I think even just the threat of Joey out there, it changes your protection plan. And we saw this last week, you know, where the Titans were dedicating a lot of chip help on Joey Bosa when he was out there. There was a rep, obviously, you know, his 1 sack, which some teams will do this, right, where they'll throw the tight end and the running back at an edge rusher. So then the other 5 offensive linemen can go kind of protect against the other 3 rushers. You know, it's a way to create some double teams across the board. And Joey just ran right through both of those guys. So the upside of Joey is still very, very high. It's just obviously the floor is much lower than previous years because of his health. So we'll see what happens there, but excited to have Joey back this week. The last one worth noticing or worth noting, question from Chris, obviously good timing here, with Jamari Sawyer and Trey Pipkins. So Trey Pipkins missed last week. The Chargers did a bit of a rotation with Jamari Sawyer and Foster Sorrell. Jamari started and finished and played the bulk of the snaps, and I thought played pretty well. But Trey Pipkins is not on the injury report. He is back healthy, and Greg Roman didn't exactly shut down any potential kind of competition between Sawyer and Trey Pipkins. Pipkins was limited the first 2 days in practice, was a full participant in practice yesterday. So what are your thoughts here as we kind of, we never really got a competition, but now we're at week 11 and we might have a competition because Trey got injured and Jamari played pretty well.
I don't know what to make of it. I really don't, because we were flabbergasted back in the spring when they said, and that's our starting line, and here we go.
It was like the third day of OTAs. It was like a couple of practices and then boom.
I feel like they put on, like, they got dressed in uniforms and they're like, that's the group. And look, I get it, especially when you're paying Trey that much money. There's also, like, you want to get somebody who's being paid that much money on the field. But we were so surprised, even if it was Trey the entire way. I mean, the previous year it was like Trey versus Storm Norton for tackle, and we kind of knew who it was going to be, but they had a competition the entire camp until maybe like the second week of the preseason. I was surprised that they didn't compete then, and I'm just not really sure they're going to do that now. I don't really buy that it's going to be a true one. I expect Trey to be out there because Jim Harbaugh said at the beginning, like, he's one of our 5 best offensive linemen, and they had no problem putting him out there as the starter. So I think he's just going to be out there as the right guard, but it would be funny if all of a sudden in week 11 we're having a right guard competition.
Yeah. It's, my stance has not really changed. I think Trey is a better tackle than Jamari is a better guard. And I think he's a better tackle than Jamari is a tackle. That's kind of been my stance from the get-go. But Jamari he's a more natural fit at guard. And I think we saw that with some of the run blocking. The double teams are just a little cleaner when you have somebody who's, that's his natural position out there versus Trey. They do, when they do duo, the right side is often at the front side. And so your guard and your tackle are kind of climbing to linebackers, right? And if you're Trey and you're so used to your role in that specific play being you start the double team and then you branch off and you get to the linebacker, versus now, after all these years of playing offensive tackle, you're the inside guy and you just have to take over the defensive tackle. It's a little thing that matters a lot. The timing is different. The pad level is different. And Trey is not a short individual. He's 6'7", 6'6", whatever you want to give him. He's very, very tall for a guard. So I think things like that have just been kind of a tough adjustment for him. If you're a tackle and you lose like your initial set, you can generally kind of get back and recover. You have that time to recover. You have the space to recover, and you can at least run a guy past the quarterback. At guard, if you lose initially, you're done. Like the rep is over. So I think it's just been a bit of a tougher adjustment for Trey than us and the coaching staff would like. I would love to see Jamari out there at this point. I just think he's not a better football player, but he is a more natural guard, and I think the timing is just improved with him in there.
Yeah. To Michael's point, this staff is not afraid to be wrong about a player and make a change.
Yeah.
Like DJ Chark, for example, not we all. There was the 1,000-yard receiver hype. Now that's more of an injury thing at this point, but he came back and now he's behind Jalen Reagor and Quentin Johnston and all these guys. Yeah. So there is that aspect for sure.
Yeah, I mean, they did the same thing with Eric Tomlinson and Tucker Fisk. And Tucker Fisk, if he can play like that every week, that can change the way that the Chargers can run the football. So we'll see. I think if Trey kind of struggles this game, I think they might go back to Jamari. But then again, the Bengals interior, they have BJ Hill, but it's not like a great group. So we'll see.
Yeah, I feel like you got to set this before you see the Ravens.
Yeah. Yes, because the Ravens interior is disgustingly good. Disgustingly good. So appreciate the super chat from Chris there to get us started. I think that's basically the end of the injury stuff. All right, let's get to our prize pick selections of the week. Again, we like to do this on Saturdays now because we're able to get kind of a full selection of prize picks, lineup choices for the Chargers. Sometimes on Thursdays we get to it and there's really only like the main ones. There's a full selection out there. So a lot of interesting ones. It's hilarious looking back at when Justin Herbert's number was like 185 and now it's up to 238, I think it was. So it's a fun week for the Chargers. I think this is a very positive offensive matchup for them. Lots of good choices on PrizePicks, and you guys can obviously join in on the fun at prizepicks.com/guilty. Code guilty at checkout for a deposit match on your first bet. Help support the show as well as your own wallet. All right, Tyler. What's your main focus for prize pick selections this week?
Chargers more on pretty much everything. I think is my main offense. I should say, not that there's much for defense, but yeah, I would go for the more on the Chargers on most things. We talked about the rushing defense of the Bengals. It isn't great. The line played much better. Dobbins, I mean, his number's at 59.5 rushing yards. I think that's kind of an easy one. Gus Edwards is tricky, right? Because he wasn't great to start the season. Then he had a really nice performance, but it was only 10 carries. Who knows how involved he's going to be? Although Greg Roman did say it's the healthiest he's looked. It's the best he's looked. So maybe consider the more there. But J.K. Dobbins, more than 59.5 rushing yards is great there. And then just Herbert, you can pick any one of them, and I think you're good. I have him at more than 21.5 pass completions. I think yards can maybe be tricky, but I think the completions, like Herbert is so good at taking care of the football, so good at, distributing the football. It's the Bengals defense. Even if maybe the yards aren't there, I think the completions will certainly be there.
Yeah, I think those are great selections. I'm a little weary of the yardage total for Gus Edwards. It's not super high, but I do think there is a slight concern for me just about the potential opportunities for him to have some big games, and it looked great last week. I would like to see a little bit more, but I think his attempts is a good choice. So it's at 7.5 attempts. I think I'm taking the more there. That feels pretty safe, just given the way that they want to run the football. So if you're a little wary about the yardage total, I totally get it. The other one I'm pretty happy with is Will Dissly getting 4.5 targets on there. He's averaging 20. He's averaging 7 per game across the last 4 games, 28 total. Granted, he had 11 against the Cardinals, so that number is a little bit higher. But he's firmly tight end 1 for them in terms of pass catching, and he dwarfed Hayden Hurst in passing snaps last week, even though Hayden Hurst was healthy. Obviously, Hurst had the dropped touchdown or potential touchdown, which did not help matters there. But to me, Dissly he's the check down guy. He's the guy they're going to throw a tight end screen to. 4.5 feels like a pretty light number for me for him. I'm not like, it's tough with the yardage totals again, because you never know, like if he doesn't pop a big screen, like he probably gets like 20 yards, 25 yards. It's not great.
Yeah.
But I think that the target total is there. And this is a Bengals defense that gives up a lot of targets to the tight end group. Their cornerbacks are a little bit better than I think I might be expecting, but their safety play, their linebacker play is not great. So Will Dissly on the targets and Gus Edwards on the rush attempts are probably my 2 favorites this week.
Yeah, I agree. Is there anything about the Chargers offense that you're feeling more like of the less on? Because I feel like most of these we feel good about the more. Someone's going to have to lose out here. What do you feel? How do you feel about like Palmer's? I think it was 2.5 receptions.
Yeah, Palmer's tough because he's always, a viable option for like a big play these days, but he's not getting a ton of volume. And I think this should be a positive passing game script. Yeah. But if you're the Chargers also, you're probably going to want to run the football a lot. So this could be another game where Justin only maybe throws 21 passes, 25 passes, and there's just like not a lot of volume to go around. So I am hesitant about Palmer's number. I'm hesitant about Quentin's number. To me, this passing game is kind of starting to funnel through Ladd and Will Dissly, which is kind of crazy just in terms of like the target volume. Quentin has been highly efficient, but I don't know how much I trust the volume there or the volume with Josh Palmer.
Yeah, I agree. If I'm trying to go for the safe bet, so on the one hand, Palmer 2.5 is that's not much, right? So you just need 3 receptions and you're good. But yeah, Will Dissly and Ladd McConkey are your safer options. That's why their targets and their numbers are higher. But still, like those are your safer ones. Quinton, hey, all it takes is the one, shallow crosser or whatever, and you get 40 yards in your touchdown or whatever.
Yeah.
A coverage bust against the Browns, and he's got 100, and then the BS play to end the first half, and he's got 115 yards.
Yep.
Of course, the only week that I take the less on Quentin Johnston is that particular week, but whatever. Such is life. So yeah, McConkey is definitely the safest bet. I mean, the guy's had 40 yards in every game since week 2, since September 15th. 40 or more yards, I should say. So was a little worried last week because it was 2 catches, but still had the yardage.
Yeah. Did you see the clip about Ladd McConkey from Matt Harmon and the reception perception?
No. Is it good?
So it is very good. His success rate against man coverage is like 80%. So it's crazy, man. And like I've known like he's not really getting the designer touches, which I kind of think is a mistake, but he's only caught 1 screen pass this season.
I couldn't even tell you when that is.
Yeah, I don't know. Like the usage is it's a lot of vertical stuff. It's a lot of horizontal stuff. It feels like this could be a big Ladd game just because the Bengals slot corner is situation is not great. The safety situation is not great. So this of the receivers, I think Ladd is he's their wide receiver 1 for a reason, and the number for him is 54.5 yards.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
It feels like a pretty safe selection, even though it is kind of a big number for a low volume passing attack. But I just think Ladd is playing at such a high level, and the Bengals don't play a ton of man coverage, but they're in the top half of the league in man coverage rate. So it's kind of been a staple of theirs over the last few years with Lou Anarumo. So they will give Ladd some opportunities, I think, to make a big play or two.
Okay, Zay Flowers against the Bengals had only 34 yards. Great, that doesn't help me at all.
No.
Tylan Wallace. It was the Tylan Wallace play.
It was the Tylan Wallace play. Yes. It is what it is. All right. Any other PrizePicks numbers you like?
You got to find, if you want to pick just Chargers Bengals, you got to find Bengals to make the bet actually work or make the selections work. So
yeah,
Jamar Chase, more than 25.5 on his longest reception. I think so. It doesn't mean that he's catching a ball 25 yards down the field necessarily. He catches a 15, gets 10, or gets 11, I should say. Kind of feel like that. We just talked about his yak, which is going to probably break a record based on how much volume he's getting. And then Chase Brown, I don't know how I feel about him. He gets a ton of volume sometimes. He's now their featured guy. Like he got 27 carries against the Raiders. But he's at 94.5 total yards for the more or less. And I think I would take the less. I just think I get the volume will be there probably, but will the game script be there? I don't know. Now he is involved in the pass game too. They get him the ball plenty, but I don't know if I see 100-yard performance out of Chase Brown this game.
Oh yeah, Chase Brown. That feels a little.
Now he's beaten that twice the last couple of weeks. I just don't really see it this week.
Yeah, that feels like a bit much for me. Yeah, I think those are good calls. I think with Jamar, big play. I think he's just that kind of guy, right? So even if the Chargers play like a great game, I think he probably sneaks through one time and creates a big play. What was T's number at? Do you remember?
Yeah. If you just pause the live stream, I'll get right to you. It was you're totally fine. It was high though. It was like 50 something yards. I think I was actually surprised, but then I did my Google search and then he went up the hill. 51.5.
I feel like this could be a game that they kind of funnel more targets towards T. Interesting. So LD Bruin points this out too, actually. Mike Gesicki, that could be a potential, selection if you want to get, more over. I do think the Chargers have kind of struggled against some tight ends, but, the thing with Gesicki is the volume. When T. Higgins doesn't play, he gets a lot of volume. When T. Higgins does play, he's not getting as much volume. So I would be a little wary there.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Again, that is prizepicks.com/guilty, code guilty. Hopefully you guys are having a great time with it. We certainly have, and we appreciate all of the great support there. Okay, so we're 35 minutes in. We'll take questions for basically another 35 minutes. We'll kind of do double there. So go ahead and fire away. We do have some super chats, which we'll get started with, and we do greatly appreciate those. But whatever you guys want to throw at us, go right ahead and send your best questions as we get towards a Week 11 matchup with the Cincinnati Bengals. All right, we got our first one in here from Michael Martinez. He said, good morning, watching while chilling and playing Pokemon. Tyler's obviously a big Pokemon guy as well.
What are you talking about? There's no Pikachu right behind me. Like, no shot. Well, these are my people. Wow, look at these super chats about Pokemon. This is what I'm talking about. He said he's playing Heart Gold. Wonderful. For those who Steven doesn't know, which is
no idea.
So unfortunate. But everyone knows, like when Silver, Gold, and Crystal came out, and you can go back and play the other 8 gyms. Whoo! Amazing, revolutionary stuff. If you know, you know. But he has Heart Gold, it's the updated version. That's great too. Enjoy. Who's your starter? I don't know. Every summer I'd play like a Nuzlocke or another game or something.
Yeah.
Somehow I'm still married, but
yeah, you spend like 25, 30 hours a week doing podcasting. You play the Pokemon on the side.
Yeah.
It works out.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge Pokemon. In general, I'm not a big video game person. I will say Brooke and I got a Nintendo Switch last year, and we got the Harry Potter game.
Oh.
And both of us played it, and both of us loved it. So we're really excited for the second one that's supposed to come out, I think, next Christmas, I think they said. So that is definitely something that I enjoy playing.
Thoughts on the new series that HBO is going to do?
I don't know. I wasn't crazy about the Fantastic Beasts series. I really loved the first one.
Yeah.
But then when they introduced like the other characters in there, mainly like I'm a big fan of Jude Law as an actor, but having him play Dumbledore was I wasn't crazy about it. And he was supposed to be like young Dumbledore, but it was set like 20 years before the actual Harry Potter series. So it was hard for me to wrap my head around. Johnny Depp as a villain, I wasn't crazy about stuff like that. But so I'm a little weary about it. Brooke and I love watching Harry Potter. We do a marathon every single Christmas because it's just kind of like one of the things. On Christmas break we like watching Harry Potter. So I will watch, but I'm a little skeptical of it. It's very similar to like the Star Wars stuff, right? Like
or Rings of Power.
Or Rings of Power, yes. The remakes are never really as good as the originals.
No, I like the idea of the series. There's so much in the books, and I think most of us of our certain age, we grew up reading those books. Like that was our thing. So it'd be nice to see it fleshed out. I guess there's the rumor that Mark Rylance would play Dumbledore, and he's like, I think he's awesome. So that could be a good start there.
Yeah. I don't know if they still do book fairs in elementary schools, but I have this vivid memory of when Prisoner of Azkaban book came out, and it was like the hottest book of the year, obviously. God, I sound so nerdy right now. And I just remember like I like begged my mom to make sure we got to the book fair like as soon as possible so that I can make sure to get Prisoner of Azkaban. And then I was the first one of my friends to like finish reading it. I zoomed through it. And that's like it's a big core childhood memory of is reading those books, talking about it with all my friends. We all dressed up as Harry Potter characters for Halloween at that time. And it was a great thing. And then all the movies started coming out, and it was just it's a core piece of our childhood for sure.
Oh yeah. And Harry Potter was born at the end of July. I'm close, July 29th. So when the movies came out, I was born in 95. I think you were 94.
Yes.
So we were almost the same age as the kids as they went through the movies too, which was just something special. And my kids will have, I don't know what they're going to have, but we grew up with the prequels and Harry Potter, even as like teenagers to now, like the MCU, all this stuff. We got pretty lucky. I went to the book fair, had the Harry Potter books, of course, went to this thing called Barnes and Noble, if half of you guys even know what that is anymore. They do exist. Went to story time and all that.
Nice.
But I picked up the Lord of the Rings books. I read the Return of the King first, which is whatever, but it was available.
Yeah, Brooke and I had this conversation a few times because we both work in education. You work in education. This current generation, like they don't have a thing, right? Like we had so many phenomenons of just pop culture stuff come through our childhood and into our adolescence and into our adulthood, right? You know, Endgame came out after I had graduated college, so we had like, you know, my 8th grade year of middle school to my first year out of college to I'll do all of the MCU stuff. So it just is. We had so many things: the Hunger Games, the Twilight series, all that stuff.
The Twilight series, yeah.
So it was a great time to grow up. I will say that from a pop culture standpoint, and I do feel a little sorry for my students, your students, because they don't really have that kind of stuff coming out right now. Everything's a remake, and everything's let's do this movie that was popular from 25 years ago. Let's bring back the sequel, and it just is not very good.
Yeah.
So it's a unfortunate thing about their pop culture adolescence.
Yeah. Sorry, Alan. We are not talking about the Chargers anymore. We'll get there. The questions will be redirected back that way. The last thing I'll ask, although there's another question about Pokemon coming up. How'd you feel about the very, very end of the Penguin? Did you get angry? Because I audibly was like yelling things.
My jaw was on the floor. I couldn't believe, like, I mean,
spoilers.
I shouldn't be shocked about anything from that series, just because the way that they take that character is crazy. Like the scene with the Penguin and his mom, it was like jarring for me. I thought obviously Colin Farrell, I think he should get an Emmy for this. Like the acting that he takes this character on is crazy. I wasn't in love with like the decisions at the end for Sophia's character.
I agree.
I didn't love the way that they kind of wrapped her arc up, but overall, this series was one of my favorite series I've watched in a long time. It's just so different than other things that we're getting, and the Penguin is like Batman's like 6th most popular villain, and for them to create this kind of series out of his character, I think it says a lot about the direction that Reeves and everybody can kind of take this, and obviously Colin Farrell deserves a lot of credit for it as well. But overall, I loved it. I wasn't in love with the ending specifically.
Yeah, no, I definitely
don't want to ruin anything, but
no, I guess we should have seen it coming, but I was still like, man, I was so mad. I just want Batman I want Robert. I've never wanted Robert Pattinson to beat the shit out of somebody more. So I'm excited.
Yeah, so Batman 2, very, very excited to see what that is going to look like. I think that's next Halloween-ish is when it's going to be coming out, if I remember correctly. Or it might be Halloween-ish 2026, unfortunately. But I think they want to keep it in like that same kind of time.
Yeah.
All right, back to some football questions. Appreciate the mentions there. We like to talk about that kind of stuff on Saturdays. It's fun. You guys like it too. It's all good. Steven says that Harbaugh is a gym leader. What is his type and team?
Oh, he's 100% either fighting or like some rock type gym leader. That definitely feels like him. Lieutenant Surge, I guess, is an electric type Pokemon, or not Pokemon, gym leader. So that vibe maybe fits him. But
this is a Pokemon question.
Okay. Oh, this is a Pokemon question. Okay. We're not out of this, guys. This is not our fault. This is not our fault. This is their fault. Sorry. I don't know what you thought I was going like. I'm sure you thought I was crazy for a second there. No, we are still on Pokemon.
Okay.
I think fighting. There's that fighting gym leader in the 2nd generation on Cinnabar Island. I think no. That's Blaine. Someone let me know. Anyway, Michael, you're playing the game right now. Who's the fighting gym leader in Gen 2? Anyway, he sits under the waterfall. Anyway, that guy. That strikes me as him. / Ben Herbert.
I thought we were talking about like anyways.
At the physical gym, like
yeah. I thought we were talking about like the physicality of the.
He's a legs guy.
Yeah.
No, he fields him a champ. Steel type from Alex, not bad. I don't mind that. Make you more difficult to break or something.
Yeah. Jim's quote about the catching passes from Justin Herbert this week was so funny. The reporters very clearly like wanted to get into like the psyche of like why he wants to do that stuff, and he was just like, I like doing it, and I like to see the ball, the way the ball comes out of Justin Herbert's hands, and it was coming out really good, and it was like you could tell that they were wanting like a little bit more about his psyche, and he was just like, I like doing it. Joey Bosa last week was saying that he walked in the first day of OTAs, and Jim Harbaugh pops right into a set in his khakis and just starts working out. And so I thought that's where we were going. But,
Nope.
I appreciate the Pokemon question also.
Now back to football.
Okay. NSN with the next one here says, how do you think they contain Jamar Chase? It's giving him nightmares like Tyreek Hill used to. We can win if we contain him, in my honest opinion. And he has a parentheses question mark there.
Take a steel bar to his legs. I don't know. How do they contain Jamar Chase? They just throw everything behind him and pray he doesn't break free. Catch everything underneath and pray.
Yeah. So you've got to have safety help over the top at all times. The Chargers play a lot of cover 6, which if you don't know what that is, they'll have a cover 4 side and then a cover 2 side. I would expect them to play a lot of cover 6 this game just to give extra bodies towards Jamar Chase's side. That allows them to have 3-4 bodies shaded at least on that specific side to give whoever is playing corner a lot of help. I am very curious about if the Bengals put him more in the slot, because that's kind of your way to beat cover 6 is to really funnel targets towards the middle of the field. And obviously that's Mike Gesicki, that's Andre Yoshivas, who's their slot receiver. But if they want to get Jamar Chase going, I think their best bet would be to put him in the slot more often. So
definitely.
This is coverage wise, that's the strategy, right? It's a lot easier said than done, but I think you have to give your cornerbacks opportunities to mess with his timing, and then you have to get after Joe Burrow. So Khalil Mack kind of pointed this out, that Joe Burrow recently has been like holding on to the football more often and trying to like make plays with the football. So Khalil thinks that they're going to have some opportunities to get after him as a pass rush. That's the other aspect of this, is that if you can continue your 7-sack performance against the Titans, 6 sacks against the Saints, if that carries over this week, that obviously helps them limit Jamar Chase as well.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe just make it more of a more enticing opportunity to go elsewhere.
Yeah. You Ben Solak phrased it on the Mina Kimes show this week that the Chargers they're going to want to trick the Bengals into playing the way that they want to play. What is so funny right now?
Because Steve, I heard a comment. I can bring it up if you want, but it's another Pokemon thing. I can wait.
Okay. Basically, Jesse Minter's goal is going to be to trick the Bengals into not throwing the football as often as they want to, and they're going to try and trick them to throw the ball to other places than Jamar Chase. So you're going to do a lot of light boxes, try and get them to run the football more. You're going to play shade coverage towards Jamar. You're going to try and discourage them. But at the end of the day, like, this is Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. This is not like a new connection. Like, these guys have played together for years, and Joe knows that, like, if things, if push comes to shove, he can just kind of give Jamar an opportunity, and they'll make it work.
Yes.
Okay. Now you can bring up the other comment if you want.
Great. I asked, which Pokemon are you? And Steven says, and this is a Pokemon lore thing, but he's a Cubone because he wears the skull of his dead mother, which is a true thing that happens in Pokemon. So anyway.
That sounds dark.
Some dark stuff in Pokemon, man. That's why I grew up all messed up, man.
All right.
We watched Anakin kill younglings. We watched, Snake get his throat slit. All that stuff, man. Dark stuff in our childhood.
Yeah, I mean, the second Harry Potter, right, is about a demon possessing a child. The first one is too. Like,
yeah. Oh yeah, we watched all of Twilight. Like, it was dark.
Yeah. Good stuff though. I'm flipped to the tab where we can only see the super chat. So, fire away with the comments, and Tyler will get those on if you want. LA Chargers fan says that he's driving from Fresno to the game. Shout out Central Valley. Our Chargers presence is growing strong right now, so appreciate that. He has a question about Jesse Minter. Do you think he has the connections to build a competent staff? and that he thinks he stays.
I think he does. He's worked for both Harbaughs, obviously for Michigan. If you want to go there, there's some Notre Dame connections between I think he has quite a bit, maybe even through his dad. So I think he'd have no problem building up through. I mean, not that the Ravens defense and all that, their staff has been awesome, but I definitely think he can.
I would be very curious about the offensive side of things.
Yeah,
because the Ravens, obviously, when he was there, they had Greg Roman, and then when he was with Michigan, they had Sharon Moore and like that whole staff. So his connections on offense, I think, would be a little limited, but I would trust him to be able to build a legit defensive staff because he definitely has the connections there. Ravens, Chargers, Michigan. That's a lot of stuff to pull from.
Yeah.
When you're a college coach, you talk with coaches a ton during the offseason. Like you're all on the recruiting trail together. You never really know like who is connected where. Utah football is not doing great by any means, but their new offensive coordinator is a guy from Penn State because him and Morgan Scalley, the future head coach, got connected on the recruiting trail like 20 years ago, and they just kind of kept in touch. And so finally, this guy had the availability to leave Penn State, and so he came over to Utah, and it was a connection that was built from 20 years ago. So college coaching connections go deep, and you never know like where you could pull from. You never know which guys have NFL experience, etc. Defensively, I would trust him to build a defensive staff, but offensively, if I were a team interviewing him, I'd be like, hey man, like what is your philosophy on offense? Like what is your what kind of passing attack do you like? What kind of run game do you like? Who do you want to coordinate this offense? Because he's obviously been mostly a defensive guy in his career. So, it's something he would have to legitimately, answer about his potential head coaching candidacy. But I don't think it's like a reason why he doesn't get a job. His selectiveness is the biggest thing to overcome. I think if he wants to take a job, I think he'll have an opportunity to get one.
Yeah, definitely. It's really up to, I think it'll just kind of be up to him this offseason. He won't maybe have the best 2 jobs out there, and therefore he might just wait. But yeah, I think he can build a staff, no problem. I mean, the Chargers interviewed Brandon Brown this offseason for their GM spot. I would have never connected them to Harbaugh, but then there was some random connection along the way.
Yep.
So you can pull from anywhere. So I think he'll build a staff, no problem. Would he pull Bowman to be his defensive coordinator?
I think Bowman is with the Chargers because of Harbaugh. I think I think Mike Elston would be somebody that he could pull as his defensive coordinator. They've been connected several different times. If the Chargers wanted to, explore an external replacement, I could see him maybe taking Clinkscale, Chris O'Leary. There's a lot of loyalty to Jim Harbaugh, but at the same time, these guys have been with Jesse specifically for the last 4 years. A lot of them who have been on the Michigan staff. So it would be very interesting to see who gets plucked and where. But the other thing that I think is interesting is there's this new kind of idea of bringing a GM candidate with your head coaching candidate. And Chad Alexander and Jesse Minter go way back, and Chad Alexander has a lot of fans around the league. He's obviously come up with the Ravens, the Jets, now with the Chargers and what the Chargers are doing. My understanding is that Chad Alexander has a significant role as assistant GM, a much bigger role than what he had in New York. So he's grown into a bigger role. So that could be an enticing thing for a team that has a GM and a head coaching opportunities. You can kind of pluck from the Ravens and Jim Harbaugh and Michigan and all this stuff and build this new culture of things. And so it's something that I think could help his candidacy, is that if you also have a GM candidate, you can potentially pluck Chad Alexander and just kind of run with what the Chargers have been doing.
Yeah, I would totally get that. And I'm curious, not that we know any direct connection, but given the 42 Titans players, I'm curious if he also has any Titans offensive staff members.
Yeah.
Not necessarily current, but of the Vrabel regime that he could pull from.
Yeah.
Although Arthur
Speaking
Smith
of Mike Vrabel, Diana Rossini says that Mike Vrabel is the hottest candidate in the upcoming cycle. Bill Belichick is going to be getting into coaching, and he also has some fans, particularly in Dallas, apparently, which would be kind of crazy. So those two names will loom rather large, but Jesse Minter, I think, is going to have some options. Diana Rossini thinks there could be as many as 10 openings, which would be crazy because there were a lot of openings last year, and now we're heading towards another few openings this year. So I think at some point we can kind of explore which openings could potentially be Jesse Minter landing spots. I don't think it'll be Chicago. I don't think it'll be Dallas. I don't think he would take New Orleans, but there's some other potential options out there that I think could be potentially interesting for him.
Yeah, definitely. Vrabel being the hottest candidate. Is any, so obviously that would be over Ben Johnson. Is that kind of a, hey, look what Harbaugh's doing as a veteran guy in year one thing?
It's the Harbaugh effect. It's the Dan Campbell effect. It's the like former player thing.
Yeah.
And I think like the hottest candidate, it doesn't necessarily mean over Ben Johnson. I just think like these teams who probably know they don't have a chance at Ben Johnson are circling Mike Vrabel, right? So that's the part, is that everybody's kind of gathering that Ben Johnson is going to be very selective. Yeah, I would absolutely hate that. But he was a finalist last year. He was a finalist for the Chargers. He was a finalist for them, and he was very close to, being a Bears defensive coordinator, I think, is what Diana Rossini reported today. So, listen, the Titans firing him, I think, was a massive mistake. But he almost got a job last year. I think this year he definitely gets a job. What the Jaguars decide to do, I think Doug is essentially gone. But people don't want to work with Trent Baalke. So if they fire Trent Baalke, I think the Jaguars becomes a very interesting position for several people, including Ben Johnson. So we'll see kind of what happens there. Chicago, a lot of people are penciling as like this great job. There's apparently a lot of toxicity with the ownership there and being very involved, like too involved in personnel decisions. So they have the quarterback, and that makes it more appealing than other jobs. But people like Ben Johnson, Jesse Minter, Mike Vrabel, who can be a little bit more selective, it sounds like they are going to avoid Chicago.
Yeah, be curious. The Chargers have never been like reportedly as meddling as, say, a Cowboys or like Baalke and the Jaguars.
Yeah.
But getting Harbaugh was really like I am the guy and everybody else can F off sort of thing.
Yeah.
Not that he doesn't listen to other people. Now, Harbaugh's been very collaborative, but it's different than a first-time head coach. So I'm curious if Vrabel can go do that for one of these other teams. That's a bummer to hear about Chicago, because I really do like their front office. We really like their front office, but it is what it is. I mean, the Browns, I like their front office quite a bit, but the ownership wanted to go get Deshaun Watson and stuck with Deshaun Watson, and they're just kind of stuck with the repercussions of a move that they didn't want to make. The Jaguars, Aiden Hutchinson had a 38% pass rush win rate before he got hurt, and they have Walker, who's fine, but was never supposed to be the number one pick. But ownership wanted that, so we'll see. The fact that Vrabel, Belichick, Carroll, maybe even Kingsbury, but Ben Johnson, Jesse Minter, the fact that any of those guys could be a Raiders head coach really sucks.
Yeah, I mean, I would be like, as long as Mark Davis is running that stuff, and like no shade, like I don't really trust Tom Telesco to build like a contender. But at the same time, if they get Vrabel, like, yeah, that definitely would suck. Or even Bill Belichick, as short as that tenure would be. But I don't know if I buy them being interested on Bill, because Tom Brady, like, supposedly is going to have a lot of influence now. And him and Bill Belichick, like, hated each other at the end of that relationship. So I don't know. That to me sounds more of like a potential like Vrabel sway is Tom Brady's thing there. But we'll see. We didn't even mention the Jets. The Jets have a head coaching opening, but they're kind of a dumpster fire, and nobody knows if Aaron's going to return. And if I were a coach, I would not want to work with Aaron Rodgers at this point in time. Their owner is also potentially going to the UK for the next 4 years as an ambassador, as he was previously under President Trump. So yeah, not a great situation either with the New York Jets, unfortunately for our guy who works for the team.
Yeah. I think that's it. Can't think of other openings. Yeah. Well, we talked about Andrew Reid retiring, which will scare me to death if that happens. Because
yeah, I don't know if they go undefeated and win a three-peat, I think that's like as clear of a ride off into the sunset sign as ever. But Andy has said publicly that he doesn't really plan on doing that, and like he has the golden goose at quarterback. So I don't know, man. Like I would just kind of keep coaching and give Nagy some more responsibility and just kind of like chill a little bit while it's Super Bowl contender every year.
I think the stat this week was the Chiefs have won like 15 straight games and they've allowed under 24 every game or something like that going back to last year. Yeah. I mean, when you can not even be great on offense and then just win 15 straight, it's gnarly.
Yeah, it's quite unfortunate. Okay, next one here from Jacob Arnall. He says, great work as always, guys. We appreciate that. He wants to know if we listened to the interview with Navarro Bowman on the Chargers site. Love how he has led these LBs. Thoughts on the linebackers tomorrow specifically?
I did not listen to the interview, but of course we've been very, very pleased with how Bowman's done with, in particular, Deion Henley. Not that it is specifically all him, but we saw not much from Henley. I think 40 snaps last year to now we're halfway through the season giving him Pro Bowl consideration. So that's pretty freaking good.
Yeah, I love what he's done with the linebacker room. I did not listen to that interview just quite yet. That studio that the Chargers have, it looks incredible. That was cool to see of them. But Navarro, I think, is doing fantastic work. I know that there's some people a little down on like what Junior Colson has done this season when he's been out there, but I think you just look at Deion and what Deion has done with Navarro and think that potentially here the Chargers could have one of the best linebacker duos in the league once Junior kind of gets into the swing of things. And we all loved him for a reason. But Deion has been one of the most productive linebackers the Chargers have ever had. He's been in that upper right graphic of coverage and separation prevention all season long. He's one of the best coverage linebackers in the league. He's on pace for 154 tackles right now, which would only be behind Donnie Edwards for most in franchise history. The only thing we've been missing is the pass rush, and now over the last couple of weeks, he's starting to add that. He got his first sack last week, couple pressures the week before. So Deion is kind of rounding into one of the best linebackers in the league. More people are starting to talk about him from a national media perspective. So this is again another big week for him to kind of showcase his talent. So I do think as the Chargers close the season, he'll have a real case for being a Pro Bowl linebacker. All Pro is a little more difficult. Obviously, you have Fred, who will be All Pro linebacker #1, and some other, more established veterans.
Yeah,
Bobby Wagner somehow still has like a base for 150 tackles in year like 16. So he doesn't have like the reputation to, I think, get All Pro. But when Pro Bowl nominations come out, I hope Chargers fans really rally around Deion specifically and get him there. It's not the same as it used to be, right? But it still matters a lot. It still helps the players earn more money in their second contracts, etc. So Deion should absolutely be a Pro Bowl linebacker. Then Denzel Perryman, he's not a great player, but they have him executing the perfect kind of role. He's going to come downhill and he's going to hit people, and that's all he really cares about right now. And it's great, and it looks good. It helps them execute their run defense, and it's been an underrated part of the defense this season.
Yeah, Perryman wouldn't mistake him for a 3-down perfect linebacker, but he's kind of like the goon of this defense. Or just like he plays good football against the run too. Don't get me wrong, but the way he just smacks opposing players. Not that he takes them out of the game, but he brings he's an enforcer, and he's been fun to watch.
Yeah, 100%. Michael says, thanks as always for the content every week. Getting ahead of ourselves, but I think we go 3-2 in the next 5 weeks, then finish with 11 wins. What are your thoughts about that comment there, Tyler?
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Even if they're going to at least lose one. I think 5 in a row, as we've seen, starting with the Cardinals, was very difficult. That already killed our dream of the 5-0 there. So this stretch is very difficult. Who knows about health and luck and all that sort of stuff. 3-2 sounds great because they play the Broncos again. They play the Raiders. They play the Patriots. So there's opportunities on their schedule to surpass that 10-win total. And I think they'll get it. If they go 3-2, yeah, I think 11 wins is easy.
Yeah. 3-2 definitely equals 11 wins. That would put them at 9-5. And then they have 3 games left to end the season, like Tyler mentioned, to just win 2 of those, and then you're at 11 wins. So right now I'm probably gonna predict 2-3. I'm very nervous about the Ravens matchup. I obviously am not going to predict a win against the Chiefs until I see that happen more often. And then I think people are sleeping a little bit on the Bucs. I think the Bucs are good in the areas that specifically would give the Chargers some trouble. And of the upcoming defenses that they play, they're the most exotic and potentially like problematic for the Chargers interior. Which is kind of crazy because they're playing Chris Jones and Nnamdi Madubuike coming up, but the Bucs blitz like crazy. They have a very exotic defense. I could see the Chargers struggling with that defense in particular. I think Mike Evans will be back healthy. So I'm a little nervous about that game. I think that game is the most 50-50 game for me of the 5. The other games I feel like pretty good knowing where they're at. I expect them to beat the Bengals. I expect them to beat the Falcons. But that Bucs game, I think, is a little more 50-50 than people are kind of making it out to be right now.
Yeah. We'll see who's on the team by the time we get there or who's available. That kind of, as fitness points out, like the receivers, who knows with Wirfs. So we'll see.
Yeah, that's totally fair. If Mike Evans is not back and Wirfs is not back, then that definitely changes things. But if those guys are going to be healthy, that game makes me a little nervous right now. Next one here from Colin. He wants to gift 2 tickets away for Sunday. I think I saw that he messaged one of us earlier or something like that. So thank you for the super chat, and we will definitely connect with you about giving some tickets away. So we appreciate that.
Awesome. That's really generous.
We've had a few people do this through us. So we Darren Bunch has done this a couple of times with us. Appreciate Darren. And so Colin, we're happy to help you out with that. NSN said that he wants to know if we saw Harbaugh's comments about McAfee on Minter leaving likely next season. I think we kind of touched on this, but Jim's gonna publicly vouch for his guys, and he does it at every opportunity, right? Like even with he is the Chargers head coach, and he's on a show saying JJ McCarthy is the best quarterback in the draft, right? Like he's gonna vouch for his guys. I'm not too surprised that he said that. This is ultimately, I think, going to come down to what does Jesse want his chance to be a head coach actually looking like? Because some guys they'll run to their first opportunity, right? Because they know that there's not a ton of opportunities and to be a head coach. And usually you don't get a second one. You definitely don't get a third one unless you're like a great head coach. So that's the biggest thing for me is if his main goal is to be a head coach as soon as possible, then he's going to leave. But if his goal is to be a little bit more patient and become the best head coach possible, then I think he'll stay for another year, maybe 2, and kind of do, the Ben Johnson thing, the D'Amico Ryans thing. D'Amico waited a year. He could have left the year prior to that. So I hope that there's a path to him staying, but if he leaves, I do not fault him at all because being a head coach in the NFL, there's only 32 of them, and it's very difficult to get to that point.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think there's a 100% chance there's a job available for him and that there will be offers to him, but it's up to Jesse whether he goes or doesn't. I think there will be openings. As you said, there could be potentially 10. No shot one of those isn't open for Minter. Like, please. Especially after if he succeeds over the next 2 weeks, teams would be dumb at this point to not even give him a shot. So it's up to him, but we'll see.
At the very minimum, I expect him to get several interviews, right?
100%.
Because he's Brian Flores is a guy who should be a head coach. I think he's earned the opportunity to have a second act.
Yeah.
But he's also suing the league, right? Like there's tension between the league owners and Brian Flores. Like if you're an owner who's very involved in that kind of world, right? Like you're probably gonna be a little hesitant to hire Brian Flores, So I don't know. Like he's another guy who's connected to Tom Brady with the Patriots tree. That would make a lot of sense for the Raiders theoretically. But does Mark Davis, who's a very public owner, want to risk like the owner backlash of hiring Brian Flores? I think that's a real thing. But outside of him, Jesse Minter is the defensive candidate. And, defenses are kind of punching back against offenses right now. It's very in vogue to get a defensive guy. I think teams would be foolish not to line up to interview Jesse Minter and potentially get some of this Jim Harbaugh magic, the Ravens defense, etc. So he'll have an option. It's just, is that his decision? Does he want to leave next year and get to be a head coach next year?
Yeah, I'm curious I'm sure teams could do like not a veteran head coach, not a veteran defensive coordinator, but like the Falcons are at least leading their division. They went and got Kirk. They had some offensive pieces. They got a defensive head coach. So maybe some team will look to do that, but I don't know.
Yeah. We'll see. All right. Our last super chat here is from Nicholas. He wants to know, if we lose tomorrow, what will be the reason?
I attended the game. So my bad.
That's how we'll know if the Tyler curse is real, I guess. But like,
Thanks.
You've seen plenty of wins also. It's not.
Yes, I did see them beat Geno Smith and the Jets that one time in 2013. That was awesome.
Yeah. No, you were obviously there for week 1.
Yeah. As long as they play an absolutely terrible team, they'll win.
At the time, the Raiders were not that terrible.
That's true. They had some hope.
They had Devontae still on that team. Christian Wilkins was healthy.
Yeah.
They were optimistic about Gardner Minshew. I can't believe they're going back to starting him again, by the way. Like, you benched him for Desmond Ridder, and now you're like, okay, Gardner, we're back to you.
Whatever, man. I guess whatever secures you the best draft spot possible, I suppose.
Yes. In a great quarterback class. Let's get the number 1 pick. This quarterback class stinks, in case you don't know. Yeah. So, I mean, you've seen plenty of other wins, right? It's just, you haven't attended the last couple of weeks and they won. So now people think there's a curse.
I don't even remember the last good win that I saw. I blame Telesco and Staley for that.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Well, I haven't seen them beat the Chiefs ever in person. So that's great.
The last good win, I mean, obviously the 2023 season was not great.
I didn't go to the Browns game that you got to go to where they won big.
You were there for the Viking. Wait, that was at Minnesota. Never mind.
I was there when they lost to the Vikings.
You saw last year's Raiders win was good.
Yeah, I see them beat the Raiders every year. That's one thing I go to.
Did you go to the Bears game last year?
No, I didn't go to the Bears.
I
saw them beat the Giants on the Herbert play, maybe his best throw of his career. That was in my end zone, but that was the Giants. They also beat the Broncos when what did Herbert set the record with when he made that pass to Williams? And it was some record for maybe through 2 seasons.
Did you go to the Dolphins game in 2022?
Nope.
Okay.
Go through all the good games. I didn't go through it.
Oh man.
Wait, now I actually have to figure out what good game have I seen that they've won.
The Browns game?
Lions game sucked. No, you were at that game. I wasn't.
I was at that game. That's right. That game was
I attended the Lions game that they lost, so that's great.
The game was sick, though.
Yeah.
What about the Sunday night Steelers game?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. Saw that on TV.
Okay. You mentioned the Giants one. I mean, that Giants team kind of sucked, but it was a fun game.
Yeah, it was a fun game. So I was with you guys when they beat the Rams and Baker Mayfield. I saw them beat Malik Willis and the Titans. Skipped the Dolphins game. Did they beat? Nope, they lost to Seattle.
Obviously, 2020 was COVID.
COVID.
2019 sucked, but
Yeah,
I was at that Colts game week 1. That was fun.
Okay, I wasn't there for that one.
Okay.
Okay, so now we're at
StubHub.
Okay, so I guys, I don't know what the last good game I saw was. I didn't see the Green Bay game where they switched coordinators. I don't think I'm going to a game ever again, guys.
What about 2018 when they beat the Bengals at home? That was an important win.
I don't even remember that game.
Or when Rivers had like the 25 completions in a row against the Cardinals. That was fun.
I don't know if I saw that one, dude. I think I saw whenever they beat up Buffalo that one time with Nathan Peterman.
2017.
Great. There you go. That's
2017.
probably the one. Now, I've seen one of my favorite games ever. I saw them beat the reigning champion Seahawks. The whiteout game. One of the best games I've ever been to. So I saw that one. I saw the hat trick. Guys, I think I really am a curse.
No, the Chargers have just been bad. You haven't had a lot of opportunities for big game wins, and then when the Chargers have been in those moments, they have lost. So
no, because the 4-12 Chargers in 2015, the 5 and whatever they were in 2016. There wasn't exactly a marquee setup there. I saw them beat the Saints in 2016 until I got to the tram and they had lost that game by the time I walked out of the stadium. Yeah, man, I haven't seen much. I spent a lot of money to get these season tickets, but I don't think I've seen many great games that they've won.
Yeah. So I would say like what's the best home win since they've been at SoFi? Probably the Browns game. Or maybe the Steelers game.
Yeah, probably the Steelers game. Browns game's pretty good.
I mean, the Raiders have been fun wins, but the Raiders have not been.
Yeah, it hasn't been like a great matchup.
You were at the Monday night Raiders game though, when it was like the storm and all that.
Oh yeah,
that Raiders team was still kind of good. I would classify that as a big.
Yeah, Gruden was still the coach. Henry Ruggs existed on the field. And
Darren Waller, Derek Carr.
Yeah, I saw that one. I mean, that was, again, great fun game to see for sure. But yeah, I think at this point, Alex has seen more in-person Chargers wins than I have the last couple of years. And he's been to one game, I think.
No, you've seen wins. It's just not the big games that have been wins. So, yeah. But again, they haven't really had big wins since 2021 at home.
That's awesome. Well, hey, it's Schoen versus Curse versus Harbaugh versus Burrow, and like Schoen versus Curse is the matchup of the week. I'm talking about Herbert and Burrow. Forget about it. We got Bengals this week, Ravens next week. If they go 0-2, I will give my season tickets to a lucky fan.
All right, there you go. It could be worse. LA Chargers fan is 0-4 in person. Oh, the post-rib Jaguars game. I was at that game also. That one sucked. Dolphins, Broncos, Lions. Which Dolphins game did they lose?
Oh, the week 1 game.
Oh, yes, week 1 last year when they covered Tyreek Hill with JC Jackson in his first.
Saw that in person. Guys. That was great.
It was a fun game.
I guess.
it was competitive.
Hey, man, I believe they were going to run the hell out of that football.
Dylan Cole says he's 0-6 in person.
0-6 is pretty bad.
I would stop going to games if I were 0-6 in person.
You just got to find one of those layup games and go to it.
Brooke and I are like 500, like right on the dot. But
yeah,
when they lost that Jaguars game, Brooke was like, "I'm never going to a game in person again."
Oh, that's brutal. Like I've seen some brutal ones.
But I have convinced her, obviously, to go to more games. So
yeah,
one of my coworkers up here, he's 4-1 at Chargers games, and he always goes to when they play the bad game. So he's very happy with his in-game performances. He's watched both of the Titans games the last 2 years. He watched the Rams game. He went to the Patriots in 2021 when they beat that team. Or was that 2022?
When they beat the Patriots?
Yeah, didn't they beat the Patriots? Mac Jones one of those years?
Nope. They lost to them.
That might be his
pick six to Adrian Phillips.
That might be his loss then. Anyways, he's 4-1, he says, all at SoFi, and he's having a great time. 7-0. Bro, how?
Do you watch the Raiders game? You just go.
Yeah, you just go to the Raiders game every year. I don't know anybody that is 7-0 like that.
Chiefs fans, I guess.
Yeah.
I was there I watched 3 straight home games when they opened in StubHub in 2017 when they went 0-4. Yeah, I saw I watched the Broncos loss, on TV, obviously, and then Dolphins game, Chiefs, Eagles, lost all of them 3 in a row. My poor dad was just like, Tyler, do we have to go to these?
And then they ended up doing pretty well that
I know.
Classic. Start 0-4 and then miss the playoffs on a tiebreaker.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 7-0 in person. I need to know like the secret. Like, do you like sage yourself before you go to the game? I need to know.
Yeah, I'll do it. Whatever you say you do, we'll do it.
My oldest brother, he has 5 kids, so he doesn't get to go to a ton of Utah games. When he does, they always win. Like it's the craziest thing. Like they're not always, but like
he must be playing USC.
He's been to a lot of USC games, so it works out. Joe says he's 3-0 in the Herbert era. Alex says one trick is he doesn't wear any jersey at any games.
Neither do I. It doesn't work.
Yeah, I don't love jerseys, to be honest with you. When the Chargers did the revamp, I was like, I'm going to buy as many jerseys as possible. And I bought a Herbert jersey. I bought an Austin Eckler jersey. And I bought a Mike Williams jersey, like right off the bat. And I never wear any of them just because I don't. It's not a fun. It's too hot at games to wear a jersey.
It is. Yeah, I don't like wearing those jerseys. They're not like, if you had like the ones from football where like the arms are like all like elastic arms and like actually are kind of nicer, maybe. But
yeah, the vapor jerseys, I think they're called.
Yeah, but these.
Oh my God. Alex was at a game where his team lost 78-0. I didn't know you were at that Rutgers game, Alex. My goodness.
I think I played in a game where we lost 78-0 in middle school. Our team was so bad.
Yeah. Important question from NSN. What is your sister's record in attending?
Okay, so I don't think I've been to a game with her since they beat the Dolphins in their last home game at Qualcomm. Or they're supposed.
She's been to other games on her own, though, right?
Yeah, she went to the Ravens game last year with her ex-boyfriend, so I blame him. And
Fair.
Yeah, I don't know what her record is. She went to a preseason game, but she hasn't been to a ton of Chargers games.
I thought there was a game where like the 4 of you went.
Oh, so I've been with my sister Rebecca, I've been with my sister Ashley to the Raiders games, I've been with my wife, but Amanda, who's going on Sunday, I don't think has gone to most of those games.
Oh, okay.
Wait, what did she see? Oh, the Cowboys game. That's what she saw in person. She lost that. They lost that one.
Okay.
The opener, not the recent one. The opener.
Yeah, the game where Jared Cook had the illegal shift penalties that costed them 2 touchdowns. Yeah, that one.
That same one. I'd say she's probably 500.
Okay. Fair. This has been fun. I enjoy going down the memory list of all these games.
I'm so happy for you. I didn't find a single I didn't find a ton of enjoyment from most of that. No, not Emma Vanessa. Other sister anyway. Michael
Martinez says that he's 4-1, so that's good. Good for him.
That's pretty good.
Going to some layup games.
That's not how you convince your son to be a Chargers fan. Michael's taking his son to 10 games at least, and they finally got their first win against the Titans.
Yeah. See, my coworker, he's taken to his daughter to all these games, and so she loves it. She's bought a Herbert jersey. She's having a great time. She thinks
Yeah.
they're awesome, and they might end up being awesome now. But yeah, she's obviously not aware of all of the struggles over the last few years because she thinks every game they go to, they win, and it's a great time.
My mom has never seen the Chargers win unless they're playing the Raiders. And I think we've gone to like 7 games, non-Raiders games the last few years. So, yeah.
The root here is the Brandon Staley and Tom Telesco era.
Correct.
Not great.
No, correct. It has not been great. Yeah.
You haven't been to a ton of road games though, have you?
I've only been to one that I think so. And that was the game that we attended where I think I got COVID and the Chargers got kicked out of the postseason. Great one too.
Yeah. The game was crazy.
It was almost one of the best experiences of my life.
Yes.
Like if they had won that game, because we were at a point when they hit overtime, we were looking at each other and there were a couple other Chargers fans next to us. I think Joe was next to us.
Yep.
We were like, no way, they're about to pull this off. We couldn't believe the throws Herbert was making. And then they called timeout and got for first down, kicked a field goal, and we ran home.
Yeah. Joe, wonderful human being. The Vegas Chargers group is fantastic. If you guys can go to the Raiders game in Vegas, I definitely encourage you to go do that for meeting up with the diehard group there is awesome. And Joe is a great human being. It was his birthday yesterday. Happy birthday, Joe. If you're still listening to this, we appreciate you. I have been to 3 away Chargers games, and they are 2-1 in those games. So the week 18 loss. I saw them. We went to Denver one weekend in 2016 when Utah played at Colorado. Chargers played at the Broncos. Chargers won. Utah won. It was a great weekend. And then in like so they played at the Cardinals twice recently, and then I went to a game there in like 2011 or 12, and they won that game. That was when the Cardinals were really bad, though. It was like after their Super Bowl run.
After
Warner. Yeah, Carson Palmer or Kurt Warner retired. Like they were doing the whole like Carson Palmer thing. I want to say Larry Fitzgerald was injured. So yeah, the Chargers won that game. It might have been 2013. It might have been McCoy's first year. God. I was in high school for that one though. So not 2013. It would have been 2012 or 2011.
Yeah.
Anyways, 2-1. So
pretty good. Yeah.
Every time I try and decide if I want to go to an away game, I remember that most NFL fans are degenerates, and I don't know if I want to deal with them.
I would only go with like a group, with like my family and you guys or other Chargers fans that are there. Like I wouldn't have just walked by myself into Allegiant Stadium and just like, whoa, go Chargers.
Yeah. And most of my like time where I could go to like an away game is probably during like the playoffs, and most of the teams that host playoff games are freezing weather games. So I don't
like if they make the playoffs, man. I don't know. I think we might have to go to one of them.
Yeah. Whenever the Chargers get to a Super Bowl contending level team, I will make the sacrifice to go to some cold weather playoff games. But
if they travel at Houston this year, would you go?
Yeah, 100%.
I think I'd go. And I don't think Texans fans they've only been around for 24 years or whatever.
Yeah, I actually was talking about this on X the other day. Apparently, Houston Texans fans are extremely welcoming fans, and Houston's a relatively warm place. So I would definitely go to Houston. And Herbert versus Stroud, man, like that potential playoff game would be fantastic. So I would definitely consider going to that. I say that now, never having looked at flights or anything like that, so I don't know how much it would cost me to get there. But yeah, like
flights. I'm driving, buddy. I'll pick you up on the way.
You would drive?
Sure, why not?
How long of a drive is that from?
It's
Orange County
better
to
than
Houston,
paying
Texas?
Whatever I'd need to pay to probably fly there. I don't know. I'll figure it out. Actually, no, I lied. We'll probably fly. because I know my mom's gonna go.
Yeah, you could drive up to LA and have a super. Tyler, it's a 23-hour drive, dude.
I don't know. And if they win, if I drive and they win, I'll make it work. No, I'd probably stay with my buddy over. Well, he lives in Arizona. It's not quite Texas.
Alex has his school break during Wild Card Weekend.
Okay. A Fresnoian, an Orange Countyan, and a Floridian walk into a stadium.
Yeah. That would be a ton of fun. So I think I looked at this. The Chargers would have to beat the Ravens in order to make this happen. So the best chance that the Chargers have to get the 5 seed is the Steelers winning the AFC North, and the Chargers beat the Ravens head to head.
Okay, so see you in Buffalo, Steven. I guess you're going to Buffalo this year
because the Ravens have the head to head over Houston, and so if the Ravens win the AFC North, like I can't remember how I looked at this, but if the Steelers win the AFC North, the Chargers would get to play at Houston instead of at one of these other teams, basically. So root for the Steelers the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Maybe the Ravens and Steelers do play this week also, for what it's worth.
Yeah, who's the team that hasn't played an AFC or division opponent? Is it the Ravens? Steelers? It's one of them. Bengals?
Well, the Ravens have played the Bengals twice already. I don't think the Browns have played a division.
It might have been the Browns. Yeah.
Wait. No, they beat the Ravens.
So it must be the Steelers.
Must be the Steelers then. Yeah, must be the Steelers. But anyways, I think we can have a playoff scenarios episode down the road. We've been doing this for an hour and a half. I kind of just have forgotten that, we've been talking about this, so it's been a fun episode, obviously.
Yeah, no, it's trust me, I'd rather be going over and for 92 minutes talking about playoff spots we'd like to go to than whatever we were doing this time last year.
Yeah, 100%. I think at this point last year we were doing mock drafts already.
Yeah, like it wasn't official, but yeah, we were doing. So let's see, this time last year, mid-November was the Green Bay game. So very different responses to where Quinton's at so far.
Yes, I was watching the Green Bay game on a cruise on my phone on YouTube TV, and I legit wanted to throw my phone at the TV because that was like one of Herbert's best games of his career.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, that never was, like, because half of them were dropped.
Yeah.
Oh, Utah scores close. Never mind. Well, thanks a lot, Fitness. I say that, then you. Oh well. Yeah, Packers game.
It's 28-16. Yeah, 28-16. So it's closer than I thought it would be. I almost called him Zach. That's sad. Isaac Wilson just had a good throw to Dorian Singer. So, anyways, I guess we missed a super chat.
Yeah, just because we've been yada-yadaing. Go for it.
Nicholas wants to know, because the Bengals haven't been getting any calls go their way, now it's the Chargers. They're going to get all the calls.
No, I refuse to believe that because I genuinely believe if we're talking about favoritism, I think the league loves Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah,
like if we're pretending that's a thing and they're not playing the Chiefs, and the Chiefs will get their calls, but one to the other, I think they would be in favor of not just the home team, but Jim Harbaugh. And probably Ben Herbert will snap their neck.
There's a few referees that obviously do not like the Chargers. Sean Smith is like the main one. He's the one who refereed the Jaguars playoff game and hates Joey Bosa for life. This week it is Brad Allen. Okay, so Brad Allen's crew leads the league in pass interference penalties, but it's like across the board. So, yeah, expect a penalty late in game, I guess.
That's fun. As long as they ref in Spanish the entire time.
Yeah, obviously Hockley and Sean Smith are the two that hate the Chargers the most. So, for what it's worth.
Cool.
And then he said, this is how I saw it. So I appreciate the reminder because I would not have remembered that. So thank you for the back-to-back super chats from.
That's very, very kind of you to send a super chat to remind us of your previous super chat.
Yeah. Okay, I think this is a good stop to end after an hour and a half. We greatly appreciate you guys. Sorry we had to go through the PTSD moments from your fandom, Tyler, but it was fun.
Yeah, if the Chargers win the next 2 games, I will sing the entire Pokemon theme song to open the show.
Nice. What about a handstand?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. If they beat either of these 2 teams, I will start the show with a handstand each time. All In fact, every win, I will do a handstand from now on.
There we go.
Well, I'm 90.
Nicholas. Hey, man, I love and respect it. Just sends a super chat with LOL. Really appreciate that. All right, guys, that's going to do it for us today. Again, Tyler is going to be at the game tomorrow, obviously. So me and Alex Katzen are going to be live right after the game goes final. Should be a ton of fun. This is a huge matchup. Can't wait to see how it unfolds. This has obviously been the Guilty as Charged podcast. We appreciate you guys as always. Bolt up. We'll see you tomorrow.